Good YouTube? Cardfight King here, AQUA Life Baby. You already know how it is. So, I'm recording this right after I did my video on what I think about Chronovisor, Heritage, and Jet Z or whatever it is. So, basically I wanted to talk a bit about Blue Wave Valeos and why I'm not happy. I'm really not happy with what they did with Blue Waves in general and Valeos. Literally, if you ask me, alright, King, what's up? You going to a tournament today? Yeah. What kind of tournament is it? Is it a locals? If it's a locals, yeah. You gonna play some Blue Waves? Why not? You going to a Dynasty Cup, King? Going to regionals? Going to ARG? Yeah. You about to play some Blue Waves? Hell no! Here's the reason, guys. Valeos is a fantastic card to me. But really just for his one ability to freeze the opposing Vanguard's power. Now, I guess someone told me according to his lore, this is not his final form and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Currently, right now, it is. And his Counterblast 1 to call Blue Wave card and then draw ability is nice if you're fishing for some stride fodder or fishing for rear guards and you're just in like a more or less a desperate situation. Now, before I get more into it, I'm working on my build right now. I am working on it. It is something that is in construction, is in process, so that's why I haven't brought it out to you guys yet, but I'm planning on doing that soon. Now, back to it. Like I said, his video, that first ability for him is really when you're just fishing for something. With stride fodder, rear guards, whatever. Second ability, fantastic. Freeze the Vanguard's power at 11, which means that our 11k pokes are all going to hit. And we can wail on them. Fantastic, great. What the issue is that every other damn piece, of the deck is so needy. And it's just not smooth. It's just not. It's just that it needs a helping hand with too many situations for it to be consistently, not saying that you can't win games with it and you can dominate your locals and things like that. I'm not saying that because I know that, some people, especially in PA and whatnot, they're Blue Wave ride or die. I'm Aqua Force ride or die, but I recognize that shit. Blue Wave, has too many issues for me to rely on it consistently in tournaments, in big tournaments, things like that. That I get from my main, which has always been Valeos. Starting off, the deck does not have a good countercharging method. It relies on Supersonic Sailor, which is a non-Blue Wave card, and it relies on the heal trigger, which is a Blue Wave card, but it relies on you having one in the drop zone, then you discarding one for a G guard to get a counter charge. The deck has better ways of getting soul in a way. You can throw the Blue Wave draw trigger in to get a card in your soul. But the deck also has bad rides. And I think that's another huge problem with it. Like, yes, the counter-charging outside, the counter-charging, getting your CB back besides healing off damage, using the heal trigger in the drop zone to bind another heal to counter-charge, and, dropping a 10k shield from your hand in Supersonic Sailor to unflip damage, those are, outside that, it doesn't have any other more effective way to charge, or just any really other way to counter charge. And that's a problem because they don't have good, it's really hard to manage your resources in Blue Waves. It's really hard to manage resources because everything is so needy and wants something. But like I said, the other big issue is how sub-clan specific the deck is. And that to me is a humongous problem that a lot of people just don't seem to think about or see. How restricting things to having blue wave this, blue wave that is just a problem. You look at Thavis, right? Let's look at that. We're just going to compare Aqua for a second. Look at Thavis. Why is that deck so good too? Because yes, it has cards like Cipla. It's smooth. You know, we can use Play-Doh to countercharge. We have the heal trigger. We have more copies of Supersonic Sailor. Most decks, you know, play 4 Supersonic Sailor. So we have Supersonic Sailor. We have cards like obviously Lambros, but Alexandros costs 1 counterblast. You know, we can. You know, the deck just has so much going for it that, you know, we'll see our pieces to effectively countercharge and end games a little bit faster in a sense. But blue waves, but not even that. It's all generic. Outside of cards like Melania, who need a Thavis Vanguard, Cipla, who need a Thavis Vanguard, Adelaide, who need a Thavis Vanguard. All your grade 3s are Thavis anyways. So you're not going to have a bad grade 3 ride target. You're really not, and overall, you're not going to have any bad rides unless, you know, you ride Tidal Assault and you're trying to, you know, and you really want to get some rear guard pressure with Tidal Assault. That's really mostly it. But you really just don't have any bad, because Thavis works with all of the generic support. Blue waves don't. Blue waves for Valeos. Let's start off with Valeos. The main, what the deck is built around Valeos. He needs a blue wave card in the soul in order to soul blast. He has to soul blast a blue wave to freeze the Vanguard power. If you ride Chloris, if you ride Tidal Assault, let's just say those are your first 2 rides of the game. You are already down. You don't have the requirements to use Valeos' on-stride ability. Then the only other cards you're going to be able to put in there is if you toss in the draw trigger, the blue wave draw trigger, or the starter, or you ride a Valeos and then next turn you ride another Valeos unless you're striding. What I'm saying is that, you know, and maybe you're not playing Chorus, maybe you have Baragios, but the fact is that the deck can have bad rides is a problem, and it forces you to limit how creative and one thing, like we can't like that deck can tentatively use Tidal Assault now. Why do I say tentatively? Because I do see some decks using it. In the decks that I've tested out, I've used Tidal Assault. You don't want to ever ride Tidal Assault because it's not a blue wave card. You want just Tidal Assault on the rear guard circle. So there's already an issue with Soul, because you need basically straight blue waves in your soul for that. And the only other soul charging you're going to be doing is with the blue wave draw trigger. That's about it. The stand trigger is garbage. You don't want to run stands. And blue waves is the glass cannon in itself, so it's not going to last for a long game anyways. But other than just Valeos' problem with having to have a blue wave card for both of his effects, I should have said. For both of his effects, he needs to have a blue wave card, you know, up and ready for. But then you have cards like, you know, you have cards like Arsenal Fleet, who need a blue wave card. You have cards like not Arsenal Fleet, but you have cards like but Arsenal Fleet does Soul Blast, and that also will hurt your Valeos turn. So, you know, there is that. But you have cards like Lucianos. I know a lot of people play Lucianos. He needs a blue wave Counter Blast. Flood Hazard, for goodness sakes, Flood Hazard. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube with, you know, blue wave gameplay, and people just don't seem to know how to read the card. Listen, the 4th attack of the turn to activate Flood Hazard's restand ability has to be made by a blue wave card. If it is not made by a blue wave card, then you forego the restand ability of Flood Hazard. The fact that it has to be a blue wave card that has to attack on the 4th battle is problematic, especially if you are running a card like Tidal Assault, and depending on how you want your attack patterns to go. So again, you need a blue wave card to attack for Flood Hazard. You need blue wave card for both Valeos' abilities. You need more soul for Arsenal Fleet. It's just Barakios, yes, he's a decent card and all. He restands when your Vanguard restands. You know, he can make different plays here and there, but you know, it's just not enough. It's really just not enough. Yes, we have Foivos still, but you know, Foivos costs a counterblast. You have Galeas. Galeas will cost a counterblast and a discard. You have you know, the only saving grace in that grade 2 lineup would generally be a combination of anywhere in between Tidal Assault, who's not a blue wave, and Medora, who is a blue wave. Then, you know, grade 3 lineup, you know, you have Arsenal Fleet. If you ride him, you're dead. You have Valeos, who's, you know, great card, but, you know, he is also blue wave specific, so you do have to have conditions to meet for him. So, again, that's going to, that also, again, what I'm saying is that it limits your creativity in terms of deck building. But, you know, you look at, you know, defense, things like that. Blue wave can brick hard as hell. That's another issue. Blue wave can brick hard as hell. If blue waves don't start off with some multi-attackers or something like that, it can get really bad really early, really quickly. Your best first stride in the game is either going to be a Flood Hazard, and usually Flood Hazard you want to use with the starter because you're gonna go neg if you you know, use his recent ability. At least the starter will give your Vanguard an extra crit and draw you one. You know, other than that, the deck needs too many outside pieces in order for it to function, especially on defense. You know, reason why people play Chloris. Chloris is garbage in the control matchup, other than when you're playing Narukami and you reset their Thunderstrike. That's always a fun thing. But other than that, Chloris is just there to, one, waste, you know, use soul that Valeos probably needs, definitely probably needs, but all, and you know, you're just going to rely on her staying on the board so that you can use the cards that you bound here. Now, you know, you ride your Perfect Guard, so you can bind your Perfect Guard and give something back row attack, and then use Chloris' ability to guard with that. You know, you got the heal trigger, you send them both out of there, and then, you know, that's two 15k guards that you have there. Use Chloris' ability to bind the card of your deck, so use that. So I do see the potential of what Chloris does. It definitely does provide more defense to the deck, but again, that requires, one, you drawing into it, two, having the necessary attacks in order for you to actually execute her successfully, three, she's a 6k booster, so you're not going to be making fantastic columns, four, she's not a blue wave card, so she's a horrible ride. For one, she is just she is a horrible ride. She's not a blue wave card, so anything that requires, if you're playing like Lucianus or something that requires a blue wave counterblast, you don't want to damage her because she's not a blue wave. So, you know, but it also needs, you know, Tidal Assault definitely makes that deck a lot better. But he's not a blue wave, so you're going to be tentative on whether or not you're going to play him, and then try to think about how many copies am I going to play him at. So yeah, you have that. A problem with the name restricting things, restricting deck building, limiting what you can do. The deck is definitely counterblast heavy. It's definitely resource starved. It doesn't really have a strong way of gathering resources and maintaining them. And then, final point is that they don't have an innate draw engine. You look at Thavis, and what does Thavis have? Sipla, second to fourth wave, she can draw on attack on a Vanguard. You have Melania, third wave higher, can draw on attack. Things like that. Blue waves, they don't have draw power. They only have draw power when you're restanding, or you're hitting draw triggers on damage or drive checks. That's the only way you're going to be adding extra cards to your hand, is through those abilities. Why? Because the starter lets you do, second time or more, hey, you get to draw a card. Great, that's fine. That might be the only plus, because he's your starter and you can send him off, and so you're going to draw one for him and then restand, draw for him again. But then you have Brutal Trooper, who's your other one, who, works in the exact same fashion. But for Brutal Trooper, you got to commit him from your hand to board and then off into the deck. Dagger Master, commit him off the board into your soul. So you're losing a card on your board, you're losing a card in your hand for both those abilities. And you're only going to draw if you restand. If you get hit by something like a Brilliant Blister or something, that's the Mega County card that says you can't restand, then you've just negged yourself some cards, and you can't really do much about that. So, outside of those, those, Blue Wave doesn't have the ability to draw any extra cards. And I know because I play Blue Waves and I've talked to other Blue Wave players, they're hesitant to guard with Brutal Trooper. You don't want to guard with Brutal Trooper. You want to protect Dagger Master, because that's really your only way of building up any hand advantage and seeing defensive pieces. And like I said, the deck already bricks. The deck, you do need to have a good opening hand. You want to see, obviously you want to see your ride targets, but then you want to be able to stride, because you cannot afford to really struggle stride in the deck, which is dropping 2 cards or more. And you really just need to see your pieces, and then that goes, combines with, you have to decide what you want to stride into. Will Alexandros be the better play here because how many Counter Blasts I have here, or because my field is limited, I don't really have a restander. Flood Hazard, where's my opponent's damage at? Can I get an effective Flood Hazard turn off and more or less, attack, do my restand? I'll neg myself, but do my restand, pressure with him, and then, either kill them this turn or have enough to defend that next turn, and then I'll be able to go into a Megiddo or another Flood Hazard to finish them off or something like that. So, that's when, when you stride like that, that's when you're going to start asking yourself questions based upon your scenario. But, again, it's the fact that the deck does not have an innate draw power, so you don't want to commit your Brutal Troopers to guard. You would rather take damage and save those cards, hope to hit a trigger on damage, but save those cards so that you can plus. Like when I talk about first turn Lambrosing and Thavis is a fantastic thing. First turn Tetra Boil with access to Brutal Trooper and Dagger Master are fantastic. Is a fantastic first stride play. But again, that requires you not only to go first, but also be able to G-guard, also be able to G-guard and, survive the turn, then go into your stride turn, and then also have units available to you so that you can reach the amount of battles required. Because Valeos is going to use his on-strike to freeze the card, so you're not going to need to worry about making bigger numbers if my opponent hits a damage trigger, then I'm screwed or not. The only trigger you have to really worry about is a draw trigger adding something to their hand, or a heal trigger and then they actually heal off damage, because a heal trigger is 50-50 whether or not you have higher damage or you guys are at the same or you have less damage. It depends on that situation. So really the most effective trigger in that situation could possibly be just a draw trigger adding a card to their hand, an extra card to guard with. But yeah, man, that's my thoughts right now on Blue Waves. I'm gonna do some more testing. I'll come back at you guys with another video like this or something like that. It's just, man, like some of these decks, man, they just the way that they've been supported. They have such my biggest issue is that they have such good potential. You can see the potential in them. I can see the potential in Valeos and what he would bring to it. But then the way that they get supported, the way that they are restricted and bound, limited in what they can actually do, and then in relation to whatever else the meta looks like and how they stack up against it and how effective those restrictions and limitations are into actually ending games and making games for you on your side go smoothly. That's what really pisses me off. It's just how much potential they have, but the restrictions and limitations that go along with it chain them down too hard to where they are, just playing second fiddle to everything else, and that's not cool for me personally. As a Blue Wave fan, that's not cool. Some people might like that. Those who hate Aqua Force, whatever, it's whatever with that. But for me, not down with that. But that's the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Coming at you guys with some more videos later on. If you guys want me to talk about another deck, something else that might piss me off, whatever it is, let me know. I know this went on 19 minutes, but this is a Blue Wave discussion, and we're here to talk about it. All right, Cardfight King, I'm out. Peace. Pow.